Rob, let's get right into it. In the wee hours of the night, the trade that I won't say we all been waiting for, but a trade that was a long time coming. James Harden demanding out. He'd had enough. Just like he did in Houston, just like he did in Brooklyn. He wanted out of Philadelphia, and finally he got his wish. Last night, traded to the LA Clippers. Rob G, read us the trade. A lot of the names people might not know, but do you have the trade in front of you?
Rob G, Chris misspoke. Can you say, read us the fleece, not the trade?
Oh,
read
wow.
us the fleece.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I will read it for you guys here. As you guys mentioned, James Harden, the headliner in this deal. He, PJ Tucker, and Filip Petrusev going to the Clippers. Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nick Batum, KJ Martin going to the Sixers, along with a 2026 first-round pick via OKC, a 2028 unprotected first from the Clippers, a 2029 pick swap, and 2 second-rounders. And as a way to complete the deal, the Clippers are sending a 2027 first-round to OKC.
All right, there it is. So, Rob, you let it be known. You think one side got fleeced. Go ahead. Share your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm just not as big as a lot of people are with the draft picks. I get it, first, second, whatever it is, Chris. If you're the Clippers, you're opening up a brand new arena. You got 2 stars you got to make a decision on. Here's your window of opportunity. You don't. The future is nice. The franchise has been around for a gazillion years, and they haven't won jack. This is the way you try to win, not building for the future, not worried about who's going to be coming, who's going to be available in 2 years or whatever it is. And for the Sixers, it's nice. Will Joel Embiid be there, Chris, when those picks come to fruition? He might decide.
The unprotected is 2028. So what's that, about 4 years?
That's right. He might not even be there. So to me, and the Sixers probably felt like they had their hand tied behind their back. They really had no other choice. And the Clippers, I give them a lot of credit. They refused to give up Terrence Mann. That would have been if the Sixers kind of got Terrence Mann, Chris. Then I like it a lot better. They didn't get him. They got to keep their nucleus, all the players that they want to keep for a possible championship run. And they pick up James Harden, who if his head is on, we know he can play. It's about his head. It ain't about whether he can play or not. And if he's back home in Los Angeles, he's there with Kawhi and Paul George and Westbrook. My God. I mean, he got his way and got his way in a big way. And the Sixers suffered. And I'm not going to blame the Clippers only from this standpoint. Chris, everything after this year is up in the air. They just said, we're putting all our chips in and we're going to give it a shot. So I'm not going to – all those guys, right, all of them are available. All of them are going to be free agents.
Kawhi and Paul George can be if they want. They have player
options.
Right,
they can get out is what I'm saying, right?
Harden obviously is a free agent.
And Westbrook only had a 1-year deal left. So
yeah, he's only making $3.8 million. He's
right, but I'm just saying
option too.
Right.
He's got a player option. I think it was good for both teams. I don't think the Sixers got fleeced. Because here's the thing, Rob, with the draft picks. It's not that you're intending, in all cases, sometimes you are intended on using them. Sometimes they are trade capital, right? It helps you do a trade because other teams will trade for draft picks along with other players. So from the Sixers' perspective, and we're going to get more into this in the third hour, but the Sixers are fine. Number one, you know, Rob, I said last week, 2 weeks ago, said it a few times. The Philadelphia 76ers can go as far without James Harden as they could have with him. Simple. They weren't getting past the second round. They certainly weren't getting to the NBA Finals with James Harden. We've seen that act, all right? Last year in the playoffs, yeah, he had a couple of 40 pieces. And he had 3 big-time games out of the 13 playoffs. The other 10, he averaged 14 points on like 32% shooting. So, no, they weren't going to beat Milwaukee or Boston. So, good riddance. And not to mention the bad attitude. All right, now Tyrese Maxey has emerged as a possible star. We saw that coming, but now he's lived up to it at least so far. 30 points, 6 boards, 6 assists a game. He won't average that, but he's playing like he could be a star in the future. Tobias Harris, your third guy, and now they added more depth. Robert Covington, Nick Batum, they're not awesome players by any stretch, but they add depth. You've got 3 big scorers, and Kelly Oubre actually is putting the ball in the basket pretty well as a 4th scoring option. So I think from a basketball standpoint, they have a lot of depth and role players around Embiid and Maxey, and then Tobias as their kind of big 3 if you want to throw Tobias Harris in there. But beyond that, Rob, they will have $50 to $65 million of cap space this summer to go out, or next summer, to go out and try to get a star. Or during the season, they've got a lot of expiring contracts. All the contracts they traded for were expiring. All of them. So they got expiring contracts and a plethora of draft picks that they could flip during the season for another good player. Toronto's Pascal Siakam could be a free agent this summer. OG Anunoby, Zach LaVine from Chicago. There's a lot of names out there that they could maybe try to trade for during the season, or they can go after as free agents next season. So, and I think they'll be just as good this year. I think they're not where Milwaukee and Boston are, but I think they can play with anybody else in the East. So I don't think Philly got fleeced by any stretch of their imagination.
I think they got fleeced from the standpoint of trying to keep Joel Embiid. If this thing doesn't work or it goes sideways, Chris, I hear what you're saying. If they play well, if they don't play well, and some of these things don't lead up to that,
but what's not playing well? Like, what do you think? I mean, they're a pretty good team. Like, do you see them not? Them not making the playoffs would be a complete.
No, I don't. I'm not saying that. Half the league, more than half the league, makes the playoffs. I expect them to make the playoffs, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know if they get knocked out in the first round, or just you realize
that's possible.
You realize that they don't really have it, and Embiid can say that what a wasted year this was, and then the other part is. I hear you, but you're not sure exactly who's going to be available, who's going to be made available. I get what you're talking about with maneuvering, but as we go into the season, they're no closer to winning anything than they were. If anything, they took a step back.
I don't think they took a step back.
I think they took a step back.
Where were they going with James? Did they have a chance, other than like anything can happen? They do have talent. Anything beyond that, did they have a real chance of getting out of the East this year?
No, but that's Chris.
Okay,
but you really don't know. You really don't after you trade a talent like that.
I think they're just as good.
I don't think so.
Harden. I definitely would not have played him this year because he was going to come in with a bad attitude, and he just would have brought a downer on the whole team. I get it. I don't think they're getting out of the East this year. I don't think they have a really chance of that, but I don't think they did with Harden. Certainly not in his frame of mind. But we were going to kind of talk Clippers, but we'll get into them later and why we both like the deal for them. But yeah, Rob, I think Philly did fine, and I think the fact that they've played so well, they're 2-1. Granted, it's early, but they lost to Milwaukee by a point, and I really do think that they could be a second-round playoff team, and I think that was their ceiling even with Harden. And I think they
could be knocked out in the first round and that could have happened.
I'll be honest. I think Embiid, and this is why like people are saying, and I get it, but maybe Embiid will try to move on. Well, is it enough for him? Is it a wasted year for him? He is an MVP. I get it. He's a great player, but he has to be bigger in the playoffs too.
No, I
really don't want to hear him talking about I might be out. No, dude, we might not have been bounced so early if you were, one, healthy for the playoffs, and two, if you played in the playoffs like you do in the regular season.
Yeah, but if they get, I'm just saying, if there's a rough patch and the team's not winning or going somewhere, this guy could come up and go, I'm one out too. I don't want to be here, is what I'm saying. You kept set yourself up to where he's going to want to exit as well. I
well,
think.
What would have changed that though? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you think like Terrence Mann? He's fine. I mean, he's not. He's a nice, young, versatile player. I don't think he's a star. He's not Tyrese Maxey. Like, he's not even close to that. But that's really, I mean, what else? What move do you? No one else wanted Harden, as you know. So what other move was out there? Now, if they could have got a Norman Powell, I would have loved that. But good to the Clippers.
The Clippers didn't give up anybody that they really wanted. That's the thing that's unbelievable about the trade is that they kept
Covington was starting for him,
right?
For what that's worth.
But I'm saying that. But he played well. But what they were able to keep and bring Harden and PJ. I mean, I just think that they won. I think they won all over the place.